Okay. So everybody have the new handout here, Hudson? Okay, very good. Anyway, so, we finished up chapter 9 last week, and that was going through, last 2 weeks was, the fifth trumpet, the sixth trumpet, and all those trumpets, they followed the seals, the seven seals, and the seventh seal became the trumpets, and all this is judgment talk, okay? Well, I take it back. It's judgment talk on unbelief. It could be considered gospel talk for the believers. But what I wanted to do was, as we get into chapter 10, it seems like starting in chapter 10 for a while, there's kind of a pause in these bowls, or in the trumpets. We won't see the seventh trumpet until I don't know, somewhere later, chapter 11, chapter 12, somewhere in there, there's a pause. And then even then, you're going to have in chapters 12, 13, 14, 15, I think, you got all this strange stuff that's going to be happening. And then in chapter 16, then the seventh trumpet turns into the seven bowls. And then you see kind of a repeat of what was happening, before. So what I wanted to do was a little bit of a review where we were. In fact, this will work out good with, having a shortened time since we had the business meeting. But as we're going to approach on your handout there, what I've got, and if you don't remember, I did this when we were doing the introduction to Revelation, which was, I don't know, last millennium. And but what I said was that the seven seals describe events that lead up to the end. Okay. And then it recycles, and then the seven trumpets kind of says the same story. It's just a recapitulation of those events that lead up to the end. And then when we get to the seven bowls, it's going to be like a recapitulation of what we saw previously. It's like John telling the same story from different perspectives. He may ratchet them up a little bit, but it's like going up a spiral staircase. A lot of people will read it as linear events. It's like, what do you call them? The seals are going to take out this part of the population, or is going to do this damage. Then the trumpets is going to do this, and then the seals or the bowls are going to, do this. You have to look at it like going up a spiral staircase. You start down here, you got the story of the seals, then the trumpets, then the bowls, but you stayed kind of in that same time period. So what I've got here is in your notes says, you're talking about the style. I just copy and pasted this from the earlier teachings. The story from God's point of view. Some examples are very simple and not comprehensive, just to get rolling. So if you look at here, and this is where you get into the ends. The seven seals were chapter 5 through the beginning of chapter 8. Okay. But then if you read, and you can do this at home, if you read chapters 6 through 12, 17, that language there is the end of the world type of stuff, okay? So it's like the world ended, and then it starts back over. So the trumpets are chapters 8, 6 through 11, 19. That's where we are right now, okay? And but it leads to the end of the world, which is going to be in 11:15 through 19. Like I say, you can what do they call it? You can fact check me at home, and then well, no, because people have different views, and they don't see those as the end. But from Lutherans are, for the most part, amillennial. And we look at it different than the dispensationalists do. So then we've got these interludes, which we're going to start in 10, but I've got this interlude from 12:1 to 14:20, and this is where you get into the dragon chasing the woman and the stars and all that. I think I used that for the Christmas story this past year. But anyway, but it's going to lead to the end in, I've got this is there, 14:9 through 20. Then we get into the 7 bowls, and it's going to lead to the end in 16, 17 through 21. And here was my point. I think I've got this in your notes. Yeah. Is that if the back half of the book got ripped out for some reason, okay, I think that, just lost forever and ever. And it ended at Revelation 7:17. First one who flips to 7:17 or 7:17 first wins a prize. Whatever, Revelation 7:17. That the readers would understand that the end had come in chapter 7. Are you there, Carl? Huh?
Yes.
Okay. Read 7:17.
For the Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd, and will lead them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eye.
Yeah. So after all those events, in the seals, you get to where the comfort of God in heaven, wipe away. Isn't that what we believe? You get to heaven, wipes away every tear. And, there's no more tears in heaven, no more of that bad stuff. Well, you've got that in Revelation chapter 7 already. See, and that's why I say, so those events end there, and it's like end of the world, heaven. And then it moves on. It's going to tell the same story. I just want to get us caught up where we've been. Anyway, and the last note there is, if true, then this would show that John was not writing a chronology, but indeed retelling the same history over and over again. So now on your handout, I got to go between my notes and your handout. So the 7 trumpets, where we've just got, point A, B, C, D, E is what we just finished up. The 7th seal was the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets. The first 4 trumpets are listed there. The 5th trumpet and the 6th trumpet are what we just went through these last, a couple of weeks. But after the 6th trumpet, we have the impenitence of those who remained in 9:20. Remember, they all wished they could die, but they couldn't, but they wouldn't repent either. That's just the nature of man to be that way. No matter how bad it gets, if they're not going to believe, they're not going to believe. And that choice is there. Then I've got that note there that says, okay, we are here. So here's where we're going is F, G, H, and I. And we're going to see the angel with the little scroll, and we'll read this. We're going to see John's commission to preach. I don't think we'll get there. We're going to see in chapter 11 the 2 witnesses, and then we're going to see the seventh trumpet. And then after that, starting in 12, I've got these different scenes that we're going to see. And trust me, if you guys will read ahead this week, using this as an outline, it'll give you a view that hopefully will help you understand, so that when we gather together and we talk about these things, it's not totally unknown. I mean, so you're talking, what are you talking? 6 chapters, maybe. You read a chapter a day and you'll be there. You can take Sunday off because that's our Sabbath, right? Anyway, but we're going to read about the great red dragon's assault, the beast from the sea, the beast from the earth, the 144,000 with the lamb, the 3 angels, the harvest, and the angels with the plagues. We can make a movie out of this. We can make a mini series out of this and have each one, done this way. And then the 7 bowls will start after that. So let's go through the first couple of verses. Go, Carl, can you read chapter 10, 1 through 6, please?
Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs were like fiery pillars. He was holding a little scroll, which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land, and he gave a loud shout, like the roar of a lion. When he shouted, the voices of the seven thunders spoke. And when the seven thunders spoke, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven say, seal up what the seven thunders have said, and do not write it down. Then the angel I had seen standing on the sea and on the land raised his right hand to heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created the heavens and all that is in them, the earth and all that is in it, and the sea and all that is in it, and said, there will be no more delay.
Ooh, no more delay. You know. So if you've read Revelation before, and if you've paid attention in our hour going through it, there's nothing that's being said here that we haven't heard before. Again, he's in this vision. I think I said this last week. I think he's in vision from the first chapter and starting with verse 10 all the way through the end of the book. I mean, I don't think he ever comes out of the vision, until he says the end. Like that. So it's all, it's all been there. Now, because John has used it before, or because the Old Testament has used this language, doesn't mean that it may be the same people. I mean, we'll see. Who's this mighty angel? Before, sometimes that mighty angel with that description was Jesus. Is that him? Yeah. When he talks about the scroll, is it the same scroll that we saw? What was it in Revelation 4 or 5? Where it said that John was called up into heaven, and there he saw, I don't know if it was called the Ancient of Days there, but sitting on the throne, and then came up one who was worthy, because they said, who's worthy, to take the scroll? And the one who was worthy, we'll say Jesus, came up and took the scroll. And then remember, all of this is opening up the scrolls, but here he's told to eat the scroll. So maybe it's not the same. Maybe it's not the same scroll. We don't know, Ray.
Well, I'm listening to a couple of the presentations on chapter 10 of Revelation, was that there was a lot of speculation on the presenter's part as to who the angel is, what the scroll represents.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying, I don't know.
Yeah. There's enough variation that we don't know, but we should at least try to be consistent with what we've heard before. So it says, then I saw another mighty angel. Now, this is a mighty angel. Is that more than an angel? Would that qualify it to be Jesus? He could have said, I saw an angel. What in Revelation 20, I think when he says, I saw an angel come down with the key to the abyss and a chain. He's going to lock, Satan into the abyss. But there it said, I saw an angel come down. Didn't say a mighty angel. So it could be, but we know that mighty and top angels probably do represent. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this guy's right or not, but he was saying that.
Who was he? Who was he? I'll tell you.
It was some presenter out of Canada, Ontario. And he was saying,
Canucks can't be right.
He was basically saying that the word Gabriel means mighty. So he was saying that the mighty angel, therefore, is Gabriel.
That's easy to look up and find out. It could be. We don't know. I mean, we don't know for sure. Anyway, so it said he coming down from heaven. Okay, so he's not just going. Now here's the thing. It says wrapped in a cloud with a rainbow over his head, and his face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire.
It sounds like Gabriel.
Yeah, it sounds like Jesus to me if you read Revelation 1. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, yeah, I am. I take it back. I am saying you're wrong. No, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying if you read the description of Jesus if you read the description of Jesus in Revelation 1, it talks about, his burnished looking feet and, but, wrapped in the clouds. Who's going to return in the clouds? Who went up in the clouds? Who's going to return in the clouds? But I could be grabbing at straws there. I mean, again, you got to watch out when you do that, because the point is going to be not who it is, but the message that's being brought. Okay. But I just want us to look at, those kind of things. I got to look at my time. So it said that, well, I don't want to go. So he's wrapped in a cloud. He's got a rainbow on his head. Revelation 4 talked about that kind of a description. Says his face was like the sun. In Revelation 1, it even said that. Whose face was like the sun on the Mount of Transfiguration? Jesus. So, I think there's a lot that points there. Clouds play a big role in surrounding God. We see the pillar of cloud in Exodus, the cloud filling the temple, the cloud at Jesus' baptism, the cloud at the Transfiguration. Jesus ascended into a cloud and returned in a cloud. It seems like the cloud equals the presence of God. Now, that doesn't mean that the angel can't be in the presence of God either. So,
Not like the mountain,
huh?
when the Israelites came out of Egypt, God was in the mountain, in the clouds.
Well, God, yeah, God's always seen in the cloud. The cloud went before them, and the pillar of fire burned at night. Again, this is all. You gotta remember, it's all imagery. That's the thing. Doesn't mean it's not real, but it's imagery, and the imagery gets used throughout the scriptures. And we'll see that when we get to the scroll, because we're going to go back to Ezekiel for the scroll. He said he had a little scroll open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And I think that's more than just going down by the lake and you got one foot on the dry rock and the other foot there in the water a little bit. I think the imagery there is he's got the whole earth covered. Got a foot on the land and a foot on the sea. So he says, I just want to go through and just cover this, and we'll go back to it a little bit next week. He said, so wait a minute, it said his left foot on the land, and he called out with a loud voice like a lion roaring. When he called out, the seven thunders sounded. So now we've got him calling out with a loud voice, and we see the loud voice from heaven at the Transfiguration, at the baptism. I'm just bringing up where we've seen this language before, okay? A lion roaring, Who's the, from the lion from the tribe of Judah? It's Jesus, yeah. And then we also see that, well, anyway, just that imagery. It says, when he called out, the seven thunders sounded. And I think we've seen the seven thunders before earlier in this book. So he says, and when the seven thunders sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, now see, here's the thing. And we talked about this, I think, a little bit before when we talked about the scroll in chapter 4, and we related it back to Daniel. Daniel was told to seal up the scroll. Okay. In Revelation 4, the command is to open the scroll that's sealed with the seven seals. Okay. And then here he says, and when the seven thunders had sounded, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven saying, seal up what the seven thunders have said and do not write it down. So this, it seems like maybe this can't even make it into the scroll. You know, he says he sees the scroll and he's about to write. I don't know if that means that he was supposed to write in the scroll, you know? But anyway, but the command is to seal it up, what the seven thunders have said, and do not write it. Do not write it down. Like I said, we're going to more detail on this, but I just want you to be able to walk out of here with the short time we have to at least see these first 6 verses. And the angel, we're verse 5, and the angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised his right hand to heaven and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and what is in it, the earth, and what is in it, the sea, and what is in it, that there would be no more delay. So you got to picture this. Because this is how you know it's judgment. So somehow you got this mysterious angel, whether it's Jesus or an angel, doesn't matter. And he's got this scroll, but he's told not to write down what the 7 thunders said. And he's standing on the earth, you know, on the land and on the sea, you know, and he raises his right hand for an oath. People out there probably wondering what the heck I'm doing here. But anyway, raises his right hand for, you know, for an oath, and he's going to swear by him who lives forever and ever, who created heaven and what is in it, and swore by the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it, that there be no more delay. Think about it. Judgment's coming. I'm standing on a street corner. Judgment's coming. I'm preaching to the crowds, walking in front of the Flying X or something. Judgment's coming. I swear there'll be no more delay. The only problem is my words don't mean anything. You know, my words don't mean anything. But I have a feeling that who this mighty angel is, his words mean something. You know, so let's do another verse. But that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the 7th angel. Remember, we had the 5th, 6th, waiting for the 7th. And that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the 7th angel, the mystery of God would be fulfilled, just as he announced to his servants, the prophets. So what is that mystery? Got to go read the prophets. Now, I'm imagining that the people listening to this message are well versed in the prophets. You know, in fact, the prophets are probably what interested them the most. You know, the history of Israel probably didn't interest them. I mean, how many people are interested in American history right now? You know, that's all past. What I want to know is what's happening for doomsday. You know, some lady just wrote a book. I should have written it down. I've got it at home. I don't have the book at home, but she's writing about what happens in the first 72 hours after a nuclear attack. And then it's 400 pages of what happens in those first 72 hours. But I don't know if anybody remembers. Remember the movie? It was a TV movie, The Day After. And I think it was a couple of parts. And I think it was the most watched TV program, at least the second half, because everybody heard about the first half. And it was basically the same thing, you know, as to that's what people want to know. So if I'm trying to bring this into today's world, is that if we heard, you read that book and you go, holy smokes, what's going to happen in those first 72 hours after nuclear attacks? Her story is she's got North Korea lobbing over a couple of nuclear weapons, and then the exchange starts. But you'd probably, if somebody said to you, you know, that was written about 100 years ago, you'd probably get into those. When was Nostradamus written? He had a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But Yeah, but that's what people, and so that's what's happening here, I think. I think when John's talking about this vision, these people are running, Ezekiel and Daniel and Isaiah and all those guys, Zechariah, running that through their heads, probably going a mile a minute, through their head of remembering what they said, because that's what this vision's going to be. And Wanda, any questions? Oh, Ray.
Just a comment
Yeah.
on the mystery of God and
Uh-huh.
apocalyptic thoughts. Mysteries were secret, preserved in heaven and revealed by the apocalypse. Here, the mysteries is that God has won the victory over the forces of evil and will reign forever and ever.
Well, we know that's the end of the story, that God wins. I mean, no matter what you think about apocalyptic literature, is it's God wins. The battle's going to be fantastic. I mean, that battle's going to be, and then the last statement is, but God wins. So that's, I mean, in all those cases, it's always God, it's always God wins like that. But, and it's not only while he's passing these out, it's not only that God wins, because that's easy to say, but God wins for us. God doesn't just win so he wins, he wins for us so that we win, and that's the for you, in a lot of these, when pastor, passes out, communion, this is the blood of Christ shed for you for the forgiveness of your sins. That for you is always in there. And that's what is happening, here in these victories. Okay. So we'll pick that. We'll go in a little more detail next week, but we'll pick up there. Okay. Oops, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this. You can get started, Dennis, if you want.